As you begin to observe the world without taking any specific position for or against it, you start to realize that really the most powerful skill you can have truly is to be able to observe, to be able to listen. And I honestly think this skill, being able to listen, being able to observe, in other words, being able to meditate on. It seems like nobody has this goddamn skill nowadays, you know? Because this bullshit just rings all day and night, with a bunch of garbage. You're scrolling from one piece of garbage to the next, right? You're just flooding your brain with a bunch of bullshit, and it's endless, you know? We really do live in an information overload. And I think it's crucial that we learn how to discern information and be able to step out of identifying with every piece of information we come across, and instead being able to selectively choose where our attention goes. Because I really think this is part of the reason why we're in the mess that we're in, is because we have been so overly flooded with information, with convenience, with so many things come to us, and yet we never think about sort of our own ability to sort of create a filter, or a sort of processing center, if you will, for all the information that comes in. And so we take in everything, but we don't like process it in a way that's intentional and meaningful to us. And so what ends up happening is, as technology has advanced in the past 5-10 years, is people are just becoming more and more NPC. Like we're losing the ability to think and to sort of have two different points of view and be able to compare those. Instead, we just absorb, we just take in what's immediately presented to us, And so, as technology has advanced and our way of life has gotten so much easier in the past 10 years because of technology, we've sort of just decided, off with brain power, we've sort of, what's the word? We've began to offload our own sense of responsibility for what we believe. And so we're sort of in this age where nobody wants to take responsibility for their own beliefs. And so what ends up happening is your own beliefs, you just end up projecting onto everybody else, right? There's so much controversy and difference in the radical clash between different ideologies, whether that's religious, philosophical, economical. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their beliefs. And so what ends up happening is they say to the other side, "Oh, we're right, you're wrong, so you have to change." But as I've progressed in my own journey, again, that's the single most important skill I've learned to sort of to bring peace and a sense of tranquility in my own life is learning to observe, learning to contemplate two different points of view without attaching to one side and then pushing the other side away, because both are right and both are wrong, right? It's just, how do you want to look at it? If you're looking at the right side from the left side, then of course the right side is wrong. If you want to take the right side and then look at the left side, who's going to be right? And this is the blind idiocy that sometimes it's kind of astonishing to me how the masses are so blind to it. You know, what you believe depends on where you stand. So if you're going to stand here, no shit you're going to believe, oh, this is good, this is good, this is bad, right? So where are you standing, right? Because of all this information overload, we just have shit shoved down our throats, and then without even thinking, we just internalize what we're told. And, you know, especially with, oh God, the propaganda machine of what the social media platforms have become. It's, people really are becoming brainwashed NPCs, and they're not even aware of it. And so you have to take responsibility for your beliefs. You know, who gave you that belief? And did you just accepted it? Does that belief serve you? You know, you really have to ask yourself that. And a lot of the times when you don't truly want to know, you'll justify it to yourself. But all that justification is a justification for things like your own anger towards other people, your own envy, your own jealousy, your own hatred, your own sense of superiority, because you just want to feel like you're right. And so what happens if you dare contemplate the fact that you might be wrong? You know, most people don't dare to contemplate that fact. One of the parallels I noticed is really ironic is nowadays, right, we have these academic types, you know, fuck colonialism, West is a patriarchy, bad, 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 you know, all this stuff, right? You know, follow the science, progress, in the name of progress, we're progressive, we're progressing the world, we're making it better because it's 2022, we're progressive, get with the times. And then you think about that, and then you think about the Western colonization of the native people of North America, which is the very thing that they absolutely despise. The Western colonization of the indigenous, right? And yet, if you can put yourself in the shoes of a Western mind during that time of colonization, what do you think they thought? We're progressive, We're trying to make things better. You people are too behind. We're gonna assimilate you into our culture so that you can have better lives. If you become like us, right? If you become like us. Because we're making progress. We're advancing forward. We know what's best. See the parallel there? History just repeats itself over and over and over until people... I don't know if this will ever happen, but people are so stuck in their own point of view that they don't realize they're repeating the same thing that people have always repeated throughout history. We're on the good side, and we must eradicate this evil at all costs. No, that sense of the absolute certainty and that arrogance, that's what causes all of these atrocities. Hitler committed all the things that he committed in the name of good. Stalin, Mao, they committed all the atrocities they committed in the name of good. And then look what happened. I think this is that sort of realization that the evil is in every one of us. And it's not something to deny in yourself, but rather you have to accept. Because for as long as you're denying your own capacity for evil, just as the people in the past have done, we're going to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over. Because to the degree that you deny your dark side is the degree that you're completely unconscious of it. And this is the whole philosophy, the whole teaching of Carl Jung, right? Integrating your shadow. Same thing with the principle of yin and yang, right? For as long as you want to cling to yin and try to push away yang, it's a useless pursuit because they go together. And you have to see that. They spin around and around together. And you can't just push one away. Like, it doesn't work that way. Just like on a coin, there's heads and there's tails. Well, which side is the right side? Can you only have one side all of the time? And so we really do have a big problem right now with an inability to critically think. And the ability to critically think, all it really is an ability to observe. To not stand for any side, but to look at both sides and see how both sides are right and how both sides are wrong. And to see that there only exist two sides because there's truth in both sides. And for as long as for as long as you want to deny and repress and condemn one particular side, you're going to be forever stuck in an individual state of schizophrenia, collective state of schizophrenia, societal state, political state, national state, international state. So it really does start at the individual level, and more people need to wake up. And so with all this information flowing around all the time, it's like everyone's constantly trying to tell you what to believe and how to live. And you believed it. And so long as you listen to them, so long as you believe in whatever bullshit is being spewed to you, you're a sucker. You know? Because if you take on beliefs without questioning them, but they just, they just seem, oh, that seems virtuous, right? You're just a useful idiot. Because whose agenda are you serving? So all we really need to do, it sounds so simple, and yet it's the hardest thing ever, is to be the protagonist of our own lives rather than a follower of somebody else's ideas, somebody else's stuff, right? People are always trying to perpetuate stuff to you. And so long as you believe what they tell you, you're a sucker to that belief or to that person. You're a slave to that. But to break free of that is to realize that you are the authority that you have given away to your professor, to CBC, or whatever news outlet, to the textbooks, to an institution, to your company. It doesn't matter. But you have to see, to your doctor, to your psychiatrist, to your psychologist, to your teacher. All that you have to see is that you only accept these institutions and these people and these groups as an authority through the authority of your own belief. And so what do you want to believe? You get to choose. You actually get to choose. Take responsibility for your beliefs. If you aren't living a life that you genuinely feel content and at peace with, then what are you believing? Most of us have a form of belief that in order to find that thing that we're looking for, that, world peace or inner peace for that matter, we have to reach a destination somewhere. Whether that's a global utopia where everyone's absolutely equal, or an individual accomplishment whereby you get to a certain place in your job or in your relationship or whatever. And so long as you believe, you have to get to that someplace, then that's where you have to go. But until then, your life is going to be miserable. And so do you really want to live a life justifying misery? It's up to you. What do you want to believe? I don't think I can overstate this. Like, you are literally creating the reality you are living in. Only you refuse to see it. It's easier to just blame it on someone else, point fingers, this caused that. But you have the authority to change that. And it all starts right now. Not the past, not the future. It's now, dude. So to the degree that you take responsibility for your beliefs is the degree to which you might come to find inner peace. And if you manage to come to find inner peace, you just might come to find a societal peace, a national peace, an international peace. And so long as other people can convince you of their own anger, their own envy, their own jealousy, their own hatred, however well justified, or however poorly justified, so long as they can convince you to believe in it too, you're trapped. So let's get untrapped. Give the video a like if this was insightful at all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.